Yo, what's going on guys? Jared here. Today I wanted to talk about one of our older TCG exclusive archetypes after seeing the success of obviously Mitsurugi, especially after YCS Rhode Island and some of the other national events in Europe. Mitsurugi has been popping off pretty crazily, and I wanted to revisit a deck that we got previously that was our TCG exclusive archetype, and that is Ashened. Ashened is a very, very cool deck. I think it's like very neat. I think the art design is great, but the actual cards designs themselves is really where they start to fail, and it's really unfortunate. But we did get a really, really good card out of Alliance Insight that is kind of like a reinforcement of the army for the deck, but it also has like extra bonus effects which are just like insane. And I really wanted to talk about it and kind of just go over like what I want out of this deck and why it's so sad seeing such a broken support card for this deck and this deck still not be good enough to compete, in my opinion. But let me know what you guys think down below of Ashen, and yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into this. Okay guys, so I'm going to be showing you two Ashen deck lists, one pure version, which I don't think is as good, and then I have a Ryzeal Ashen deck that I wanted to show you guys. I think the Ryzeal deck is definitely more competitive because obviously there's Ryzeals in it, but it actually gives the deck a direction to go in and not just like, end on like your Ashen board, which is literally like, I think it's like one interruption. It's so sad. But yeah, the card that I really wanted to talk about was Chaotic Elements. So this is a normal spell card, printed as common, by the way, in Alliance Insight. Add one level 5 or higher monster, light or dark, pyro or aqua, from your deck to your hand, or graveyard to your hand. So we are able to play around something like Drone Lockbird if we need to. Then, if you have 3 or more pyro and or aqua monsters in your graveyard, you can destroy one card on the field. So there is a lot of like random pyro and aqua monsters that are in the game. Obviously, we have the Ryzeals, but we also have stuff like Perulia. This is an Aqua monster, so if you like stuff your opponent turn one with Perulias, you're able to actually possibly get this secondary effect of this off to be able to destroy a card. But this card also has other applications too. If your opponent controls a monster, light or dark, pyro or aqua, you can banish this card from your graveyard and then target one monster your opponent controls. Take control of it until the end phase. You can only use each effect of Chaotic Element once per turn, so you can use both effects in the same turn. This is a crazy effect. This is wild to me that this card is like this good and like is only stuck in like the worst of decks. It's so sad. A pretty good light pyro monster that is currently in the meta that you would love to threaten is Detonator, and this is without any type of type modulating with the Ashen City. But like this naturally just being a white pyro is crazy. The fact that you can just slam down the Chaotic Elements, search a card of your engine, banish it from the graveyard, target the Detonator to threaten to take it, and they almost have to pop itself. There's no other way. They're not going to give you Detonator, so they're going to pop itself. If they did not set up the Twins of the Eclipse line, or if you stop them, just out of it. There's no need for Imperm, no need for Droplet, no need for all these cards that like we were like struggling for outing Detonator. The fact that this deck has an in-engine way to deal with it, I think, is a really, really good aspect of the deck. Sadly, that is where like the plus sides of this deck end. Literally, it's just this one card, and it makes me so sad. Now, there is other applications of stuff like Obsidian, where facial special summon monster your opponent controls become pyro during your turn. So if your opponent has a light or dark monster and it's your turn and you have Obsidian on the field, if you activate Chaotic Elements, you can banish it from the graveyard to target some other light or dark monster your opponent controls. I'll just say something like, I don't know, like a Hearts of Cryptor or something, or like a Bomber Dragon right now is popular. So if you have Obsidian and Chaotic Elements in the graveyard, you can banish it from the graveyard, target a Bomber Dragon, and take control of it to try to turn off those interruptions, which is still really good, right? Like, you're not committing any monsters into the Bomber Dragon, and it acts as like a board breaker in-engine board breaker. That is crazy. Not many decks have that, and it's really nice to see. You can almost compare this to almost like, not that this is anywhere near as good, but like in-engine board breakers, as you know, have been really good and really strong. Something like Ryzeal is an in-engine board breaker that is just broken. So this, to me, is not comparing this directly to Ryzeal, but the application can be similar of like Ryzeal can out-detonator, Chaotic Elements can out-detonator. In that regard, it's pretty similar that they can do that, and it's awesome that it can do that. Now, where this deck really, really struggles, unfortunately, is with the Ashen monsters themselves. There are good cards in here, but it's where they lead that it is the problem. And this is a fusion deck, I would say. This is definitely a fusion deck. That's what they want to do. Obviously, we got the Vitos Fusion. I'm not going to go over exactly what they do, but I think they really dropped the ball with the Fusion monsters. I think that is one of my biggest gripes with the deck, is that the Fusion monsters feel very, very underwhelming. So I want to start with Vitos here. Just the fact, like, it has like decent effects, but nothing like that's good enough to really put you like ahead of your opponents. Nothing comparable to like a Ryzeal Detonator, a Hearts of Cryptor, and that's kind of where the problem lies, right? It's that it's not as good as these other cards that are like powerhouses of the format, right? Like when your opponent activates a card or effect on the field, quick effect, you can send a face-up Ashen card you control to the graveyard, destroy that card. And it's only once per turn. And it's like, that's not even like it's just a way worse detonator, like a way worse detonator. And it's crazy that like these cards were released like in like a 6-month period, I believe. That it feels a little like saddening that this is the influence that we got. But even for the smaller one, the smaller fusion that's much more generic with 2 pyro monsters, being able to super poly into this if you have Obsidian on the field with your opponent's monsters is pretty cool. But then like the actual effect itself, again, is if it's fusion summon, you can target a field spell in your graveyard, add it to your hand. While it's neat the fact that you can get back Obsidian from the graveyard, the Obsidian is also trying to put itself back into the deck with its own effect to be able to draw cards. So like, do you really want to add back? No, I would much rather have this say just search some kind of field spell or search Obsidian. I feel like that'd be much more impactful and stronger. And then the secondary effect of being able to attack and attack again, really, like, as you know, like multiple attackers, like the rest of the deck has to be good, or the rest of the card has to be good for multiple attacking cards to be good themselves, right? Things like Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon, you can think of things like Ultimate Conductor Tyranno are just a couple of examples of like better monsters that attack multiple times than this, than Embers of the Ashen, unfortunately. Now, other problems that this deck sadly has is restrictions. This deck randomly has like very heavily restrictions for no reason. The best card of the deck by a mile is Awakening of Vados, because it's like the only, I'll say, 1-card combo, like very loosely here, but it is technically a 1-card line that gets you to Obsidian and Vitos, and then being able to set up a kind of board just by itself. But again, the fact that it has this restriction of you cannot special summon from the deck or extra deck except for Pyros, that is a heavy restriction for a deck that is like designed pretty, like, I don't want to say poorly, but pretty weakly. Light-handed, I'll say, is probably the right word. I can't believe it has this restriction. And along with Extinguishing the Ashen, which is, again, a searcher that can play around Draw and Operator, but again, it's also only for level 5 or higher pyro monsters. So it's not even like this can get something like Priestess. This can only get stuff like Hero or King or Vitos. And you really want to get the Priestess. You really want Priestess out of the deck. This is definitely like the best card that they got. So I don't really understand why this has such a heavy restriction, again, of special summoning from the extra deck except for pyro monsters. Now, luckily, this is where the other deck is going to come into play. Moving on to the next version, which is the Ashen Ryzeal deck. Now, this deck is much better. The fact, again, you have an end game, you have actual end board pieces with, with Cross, with actual Exceed monsters that do something with Detonator, the fact that it's a pyro. You can set up other Exceed monsters that are also relevant, things like Evil Swarm Nightmare, if your hand's right, of course, things like Priestess. You just can't do it after you activate something like Extinguish. I am not playing the Awakening Vados in this build because that is just way too restrictive, and I do not want to play in everything. Also, there's so much engine in here, and you would much rather play Ryzeal cards than more Ashen cards, so that was kind of my logic behind that. I'm also not playing the other level 4 Ashen in here, the one that bounces. While that card is cool because it does out things like Detonator, technically because it does bounce it away, no, like, we're not playing like a worse Exiled Force. Like, no, we're not playing that in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Or a little power crept Exile Force. Like, that's not happening. That's just too weak in my opinion, and we are just not doing all that. But you do get some other cool applications. The fact that you can use Banshee to be able to search out things like X Ryzeal and Ice Ryzeal, I really like that. The fact that you're able to go into the Promethean Princess lines with go in the Lizardos or Little Knight to be able to banish the Banshee, bring it back, go Princess, bring back Banshee, Banshee go into Whale, just as some kind of interruptions. You can also, later in the game, which I really like, is the fact that you can Princess back Sword Ryzeal effect to be able to search still. That's pretty cool. These are all just like little things. And then the restriction of Extinguishing the Ashen can kind of be mediated because, you have the best by far the best extra deck pyro monster in the game in the form of Ryzeal Detonator, so you could still be able to make this and set something up even if you're under the restriction. But again, the problems still lie of with this build specifically with how much engine you have is non-engine now, because you have to cut out so much non-engine slots to be able to fit all this stuff in. And also, I wanted to not put too many Charmies in because I wanted to be able to have hand traps in your hand after you set up your board. I don't want to like have like a board, or if you get Charmied, right, and then you have like Perulia or Force in your hand, you don't want to like have this weird decision making of, okay, do I push in with the little engine that I have, or do I pass on an open board and hope I don't get a TK'd? I'd much rather like just cut the Charmies to a lower number for now, put in something like Effect Veiler, and we could set up like maybe like a half board like Detonator with a couple hand traps behind it to be able to survive, and then get to the next turn and then go from there. While I do like that the Charmies are level 4 to be able to go into things like Duo Drive, I think for this build specifically, I think I want to push back on them just a little bit and have like kind of more single interruption hand traps. Again, obviously, this is not the most competitive version of Ryzeal. Ashen is not competitive. I need to make that very clear. I just wish it was better. Dark Souls themed Yu-Gi-Oh deck is badass. That's awesome, and I really wish it was better. Now, after playing Elden Ring and Dark Souls 3, I really wanted this to be so much better than it is. But that's one of the reasons I wanted to revisit it. But going through Alliance Insight and seeing chaotic elements, and even like playing a couple games with it and resolving it and getting like all the effects of this card, it's extremely powerful. This card is extremely powerful, and it just suffers the fate of like, this is a broken card in a bad deck, and it's so unfortunate. But it's something that's really important to keep on your radar in the future, for if we get level 5 or higher Dark and Pyros, or for and Aquas and stuff. This is like an insane card that could just be broken down the line, because again, 3 effects on a Rook. Imagine if Bonfire had the effect to break a board, also to possibly pop a card if it's like later in the game. Like, it's just crazy, but it's just, these cards like these are only as good as the cards that they can search, and the cards that they can search is literally like Vitos, Hero, and King. Obviously, when we get the Testina cards, Testina card, I'll say, because it's really just the dark one. Maybe that'll be a little bit better, but like as of now, like this card definitely fits the best in the Ashen. But again, it's just eh. Also, Vitos in the current format is like kind of okay. Like with Malice and Underground kind of being played, I feel like less. Like we're going Red Ransom, but we're not getting Underground. We're grabbing the quick play spell, so Vitos isn't going to be live and be as turn ending as possible, right? We're not hitting like searching field spells anymore. You can hit like a Ryzeal Cross on the chain, which is pretty good. So they'll have like Detonator and Vitos, and then you have a set, so that kind of like sets you up decently. But again, the Detonator is going to trade with the trap card no matter what at that point, which again sucks. And you really don't like, neither of these have grave effects, which really puts you behind. So like situations like that don't feel like too good. But I do want to say, I know we are getting another support card of this Inferno of the Ashen. This also comes out, I believe, in the next set. When it's activated, you place Obsidian from your deck in either field zone, and then you can target one face-up card your opponent controls and one level 8 or higher Dark Pyro in your graveyard. Send that card to the graveyard, special summon the other monster to the field and to your graveyard in your opponent's field and defense position. And then you can only use each effect and only one per turn. Now, like, this is a card that I wish, again, was just better. Like, we're doing things that we don't need to do. Like, we're so focused on these level 8 or higher Dark Pyro stuff. Like, maybe the deck has to evolve future, like obviously Priestess is like so broken. Maybe the way that Konami is pushing this deck, they want something like King to be the way to go. You want to be playing King to be able to get it on the field, to be able to special summon out something like Priestess from the deck rather than trying to start with Priestess. We just think it's easier because it's level 4. But with all the support to level 5 or higher Light and Darks Pyros, I really feel like that, like, this might be the way to do it in the future, especially after we get this card, so that maybe we could play like 3 Extinguish, 3 Chaotic Elements, and then like 3 Vitos, 3 Obsidian, and then like this, and then plus Awakening Vitos, and then we can play 3 King, and then we give them the Vitos, summon King, King effect, get Priestess, Priestess for Hero, and then maybe there's like a better line there, make like an IP or something after that. But like, again, being locked under Pyro sucks there, because now you're just sitting, like, you have nothing to do with Priestess, you have nothing to do with the King that's sitting there, because he's not a quick effect, he's just only on your turn. So again, like, it just puts you in these awkward scenarios, and like, if I'm being honest, realistically, what this deck needs, it really needs a better fusion too. I really think if there was like a quick effect fusion 2 guy, that it would just be better. It would be something, obviously it'd be better, but like something that just does something. Because there's so many times where I am restricted playing this deck, and I'm sitting on like hero, priestess, this chick, and like obviously being able to have Ryzeals and like can move them around a little bit better to go in the Banshee, like yeah, that's cool, it's nice. But like I shouldn't have to incorporate this Ryzeal engine into my Ashen deck to make it like work like functionally. Because like going into this turn 1, if you can't get Obsidian in the graveyard, it doesn't do anything anyway. And like this card just isn't a good end board piece. It doesn't do anything either. Like I would rather have the king and the priestess on the field than to have this thing sitting here. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I want to talk about. Keep an eye out for chaotic elements. This card is broken, and like in the future, definitely could be used depending on what we get. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down below of Ashen. I think this deck has, again, like it feels like it has potential if they just print something good for it eventually. Like it feels so close still. It's just crazy. So yeah, let me know down below what you think about Ashen. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.